When Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Reed returned from a grueling 18-month deployment in a conflict zone, he expected to find his modest plot of land in the quiet Willow Creek subdivision waiting for him, a place he'd planned to build his family's future. Instead, he discovered his property had been sold out from under him by the neighborhood's ruthless homeowners association, who claimed he'd violated their rules. What they didn't expect was Marcus's response, leveraging his military connections to orchestrate a stunning repossession of their entire subdivision, turning their pristine gated community into a military training ground overnight. Marcus Reed had always been a man of discipline. At 38, he'd risen through the ranks of the U.S. Army to become a lieutenant colonel, respected for his strategic mind and unshakable resolve. Stationed at Fort Bragg, he'd spent nearly 2 decades serving his country, often deployed for months or years at a time. In 2019, Marcus purchased a half-acre lot in Willow Creek, a gated subdivision in North Carolina, about 30 miles from the base. It wasn't much, just a grassy parcel with a view of rolling hills, but it was his. He'd saved for years to buy it outright, envisioning a home where he, his wife Elena, and their 2 kids could settle after his eventual retirement. The Willow Creek Homeowners Association seemed professional at first. They sent glossy welcome packets, outlining rules about lawn maintenance, exterior paint colors, and mailbox designs. Marcus, meticulous by nature, read every word. He paid his annual dues promptly, even though he hadn't built on the lot yet. The HOA president, Karen Whitlock, a real estate agent with a permanent smile and sharp eyes, assured him his land was in good hands. "We keep Willow Creek pristine," she'd said at the closing. Marcus nodded, trusting her. He had no reason not to. In early 2021, Marcus was deployed to a classified location overseas. The mission was high stakes, involving counterterrorism operations, and communication with home was limited. Elena and the kids stayed with her parents in Virginia, waiting for his return. Before leaving, Marcus set up autopay for his HOA dues and property taxes, ensuring everything was covered. He emailed Karen to confirm his deployment status, explaining he'd be unreachable for at least 12 months. She replied with a curt, noted, "Safe travels." Marcus thought nothing of it. His focus was on the mission. Months passed. Marcus's deployment stretched to 18 months due to escalating tensions. He thought of his land occasionally, picturing the house he'd build, a wraparound porch, a big kitchen for Elena, a treehouse for the kids. What he didn't know was that back in Willow Creek, Karen Whitlock and the HOA board were eyeing his lot with growing interest. The subdivision was expanding, and developers were offering big money for vacant parcels. Marcus's lot, untouched and without a structure, stood out. Karen called it an eyesore at board meetings, though the grass was mowed regularly by a service Marcus had hired. In late 2021, the HOA board claimed Marcus had violated their bylaws. They cited a rule requiring active development within 2 years of purchase, a clause buried in fine print that Marcus had overlooked. The board sent violation notices to his empty lot, knowing he was overseas. When no response came, they escalated. Karen, who had ties to a local developer, proposed fining Marcus $500 a month. The board agreed, and the fines piled up. By mid-2022, Marcus owed $7,500. The HOA then voted to place a lien on his property, a move that required no court approval under state law. Karen didn't stop there. She contacted the developer, who offered $120,000 for Marcus's lot, double what Marcus had paid. The HOA board, citing their authority to protect community standards, foreclosed on the lien and sold the land. The sale was finalized in October 2022, with the developer planning to build a model home. Marcus, still deployed, had no idea. The HOA pocketed the fines and split the sale profits among board members as administrative fees. Karen bought a new SUV. Marcus returned to Fort Bragg in July 2023, exhausted but relieved to be home. He drove to Willow Creek the next day, eager to see his land. When he arrived, he froze. A half-built house stood on his lot, with a model home coming soon sign out front. Confused, he checked the address twice. His stomach churned. He called Elena, who was as stunned as he was. "How could this happen?" she asked. Marcus didn't know, but he was determined to find out. He visited the HOA office the next morning. Karen Whitlock greeted him with her practiced smile. "Oh, Lieutenant Colonel Reed, welcome back," she said, as if nothing was wrong. Marcus demanded answers. Karen handed him a folder of violation notices, lien documents, and the sale contract. "You didn't respond to our notices," she said. "We had no choice." Marcus pointed out he'd been deployed. Karen shrugged. "That's not our responsibility. You should have appointed a proxy." Marcus's military training kept him calm, but inside, he was livid. He'd paid his dues, followed the rules, and served his country, only to have his property stolen. He hired a lawyer, Sarah Nguyen, a veteran who specialized in property disputes. Sarah dug into the HOA's actions and found irregularities. The board hadn't properly notified Marcus of the lien, and their foreclosure process violated state law. "This is predatory," Sarah said. "But HOAs have a lot of power. Winning in court could take years and cost tens of thousands." Marcus wasn't willing to wait. He'd spent his career solving problems under pressure, and this was no different. He began researching Willow Creek's history. The subdivision sat on land originally owned by the federal government, leased to the county in the 1960s for residential development. The lease included a clause allowing the government to reclaim the land for national security purposes, with 30 days' notice. Marcus, with his security clearance and connections, saw an opportunity. He reached out to Colonel James Harper, a friend at the Pentagon who oversaw military land acquisitions. Marcus explained the situation, emphasizing the HOA's exploitation of a deployed soldier. Harper was outraged. "This is unacceptable," he said. "Let me make some calls." Harper contacted the Army's Civil Affairs Division, which coordinated with the Department of Defense's Real Estate Office. They reviewed the Willow Creek lease and confirmed the reclamation clause was still active. Marcus proposed a bold plan. The Army could reclaim the entire 200-acre subdivision as a training facility. Fort Bragg needed more space for urban warfare exercises, and Willow Creek's layout, cul-de-sacs, manicured lawns, and cookie-cutter homes, was ideal. Harper took the idea to his superiors, framing it as both a strategic move and a way to right a wrong against a decorated officer. The Pentagon approved a feasibility study. In September 2023, the Army sent surveyors to Willow Creek. Residents noticed strangers in uniforms measuring streets and taking photos. Rumors spread. Karen Whitlock called an emergency HOA meeting, assuring everyone it was just routine. But Marcus knew better. He'd been briefed by Harper. The Army was serious. On October 15, 2023, the Department of Defense sent a formal notice to the county and the HOA. The federal government was exercising its reclamation clause. Willow Creek's lease was terminated, effective November 15. The Army would compensate homeowners at market value, but the land would become a restricted military zone. Residents were given 60 days to relocate. Panic erupted. Karen Whitlock tried to rally the HOA, hiring a lawyer to fight the reclamation. But the lease was ironclad, and the government's authority was absolute. Homeowners flooded Marcus's inbox, begging for answers. He responded politely, explaining his land had been sold without consent while he served overseas. "I didn't want this," he wrote. "But the HOA left me no choice." By December 2023, Willow Creek was a ghost town. The Army moved in, setting up barbed wire and training obstacles. Humvees rolled through streets once lined with minivans. Karen Whitlock's house became a command post. The developer who bought Marcus's lot lost millions. Marcus's lawyer, Sarah, filed a separate lawsuit against the HOA board for fraud, seeking damages for Marcus and other affected residents. Marcus got his land back, though it was now part of a military facility. The Army offered him a comparable lot near Fort Bragg, free of charge, as compensation. He accepted, already planning the house he'd promised Elena. The kids wanted a bigger treehouse. Word of Marcus's story spread. Veterans groups hailed him as a hero for standing up to a corrupt HOA. Posts on X called it the ultimate comeback. Karen Whitlock moved out of state, her real estate license under investigation. The Willow Creek HOA dissolved, a cautionary tale for other associations. Marcus didn't gloat. He'd acted out of principle, not revenge. But as he stood on his new lot, watching the sunset with Elena, he felt a quiet satisfaction. He'd fought for his country, and when his country fought for him, it won.